What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode
of the Mark DellaPenna Show. I am currently filming this
from 4 completely unsynchronized
cameras of 4 different types,
which in essence
is all a part of the beginning, baby. So for those that don't know me, my name is Mark Anthony DellaPenna Jr.,
founder and CEO of Digital Business Traffic,
a startup creative media agency that I began way back in 2016 freelancing
of my full-time restaurant manager position, in which I decided to incorporate it in 2018.
And it started from my bedroom on just a cell phone. I was pretty broke at the time, and I've gotten to work with a lot of local businesses in the Boston area,
big corporations out in the world, and then I took to social media with an incorporated brand, and now I can work with entrepreneurs and content creators globally. We have a website, we have events going on, we're doing all sorts of new things. It's really big for me.
And I hope people watching it or just discovering me or just discovering our business find stuff that they like, that they can relate to.
We do a lot of resource digging and information grabs.
People like me that just want to get familiar with the digital world and in the culture of business. It's more of a necessity than it is a hobby. I did make some show notes,
but I'm going to wing this one because,
well, this is cathartic as cathartic gets for me. Just being in the spotlight, trying to get the attention in the first place, trying to ravel my head around business,
how to make it work, going through some of the obstacles that occur, like public criticism, the comment section, hearing discouraging things when that's probably the last thing you want to hear, that stick into your head, and
just kind of all the beginning stuff. So this is really the first time in 5 years or 5+ years that I have not gone through with pre-curating content or making sure it's valuable for other people. This is my show. This is my corner of the internet. I am taking my platform back for myself, for my health, for my well-being. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm coming out of a notion of, how do you please other people? How do you get them to follow? How do you get them to subscribe? And on
this show, this is where I let loose. This is where I do whatever Mark wants to do. This is where it doesn't have to be valuable. It doesn't have to be good enough for anyone else. It's good enough for me. And that's a frustrating hill that I've been battling with, especially as a solopreneur, not having a team, not having a support base. It's not like people are cheering for me in the comment section. And I've gotten fed up with it for years and blocked it out, but it puts you in a really unhealthy place. So for this episode, I really just wanted to air it all out. I wanted to tell my story from the beginning all the way till present, so that viewers and people following may have a chance to get to know me or be able to resonate with my story or just have a better overall picture of who I am and what my business does, and some of the real personal struggles with it,
and where it puts it into perspective for me. So when I first began, I was a freelancer working a full-time restaurant manager position, and I would just stare in my phone, and I tell this story pretty often. I go to events, I share it with them, aside from online and everything.
But I was just in a really weird place in my adult life where I was about 2 years away from hitting the big 30, and I put so much of my energy and life experience with resume building and career building into the restaurant industry, and I finally made it to a place that I always wanted to be, was on the verge of restaurant management, assistant management, getting more of a macro vision of how a business is ran rather than just the legwork of what it takes to be a server. And I started from the bottom. even before I was old enough to
legally work in the old Italian neighborhood that I grew up in the north end of Boston. I started working in restaurants around 11 or 12 years old. I was delivering pizza on foot, and I ended up choosing that as a career path out of comfort. I was always really comfortable dealing with people. I liked working with people.
But I really didn't know my place in a business setting. I liked helping people, but I didn't find what I was doing to be
fulfilling at the end of my day. And as I got into the scheme of restaurant management, the road that is, the pipeline of corporate politics and personalities and dealing with all that, it started to really hit me, and no one had to really pull me over or tell me on the side that I wasn't happy. And day in and day out, it was getting worse and worse. Originally, I started, like I said, on foot pizza delivery,
dishwasher, prep cook, line cook, short order cook, server, busser, all the positions.
And I gravitated into restaurant management. By the time I got there, I realized this wasn't fulfilling. I was going home later at night. I was getting added responsibility. The salary was getting higher. The people that I got to work with were great. I wasn't happy.
And I would stare into my phone, into this abyss of the digital world that I knew nothing about. And I was just fascinated by it. A lot of them looked happy. It looked easier. It always looks better on the other side of the road. But I wanted in. I wanted to know more about it. The internet in the digital world was always just a fascination from me. From my
perspective on the outside looking out, I remember at a very young age, some of my youngest childhood memories revolved around technology immersing into my life and my world out of nowhere. I remember long nights were spent playing Super Nintendo and Mario World, and AOL 1.0 came out, and chat rooms, and all these features of what the computer held was always fascinating to me. I always desired to learn how to make money through it, rather than just, scrolling around and entertaining myself.
2016, when I started to freelance, I really didn't think that I would make a career of it. It was just something that I wanted to do on the side for extra income, and it seemed easy enough that I'd be able to balance my full-time restaurant manager position with freelancing. And although I did
balance it pretty well, it was easy to adapt. You work when you want to work. You work for who you want to work for. All the power and all the management restaurant experience of building a business really resonated with me personally when I got into social media marketing and all that. But as a freelancer, I really didn't know what I was doing. I did work for a few local businesses, and some actually, took advantage of me. I remember one business in particular that stands out.
Had me buy an iPhone, a better iPhone. I never had an iPhone at the time. I was a droider, person of the droid world, and I wasn't a big fan of Apple or Apple's products. I always knew it was a better phone and they make great product, but there was something about the culture of Apple that really stuck out to me, where it wasn't too consumer friendly, where you needed the Apple chargers and the Apple headphones, and it was its own very unique branded product. I didn't want in, and reluctantly someone had made an offer that if I got this new iPhone with the equipped video software that it came with and the megapixels, that I'd be able to take better video
social media content for this particular business, in that not that they'd reimburse me for the purchase of this phone, but they'd allow me more work. So it was like a work opportunity thing. So I took a chance, I bit the bullet, and I grabbed my first iPhone. And they came up with some really funky contractual agreement that I didn't know any better for. And basically, it was a way to take advantage of the skill set that I was investing my time and energy into learning about social marketing and writing copy and how to engage an audience. And
in social media content for this particular business, in that not that they'd reimburse me for the purchase of this phone, but they'd allow me more work. So it was like a work opportunity thing. So I took a chance, I bit the bullet, and I grabbed my first iPhone. And they came up with some really funky contractual agreement that I didn't know any better for. And basically, it was a way to take advantage of the skill set that I was investing my time and energy into learning about social marketing and writing copy and how to engage an audience. And
it was definitely something that I was putting a lot of time into behind the scenes. After work, I would go home and learn about it or practice something, one or another. It was just a world that I wanted to get into. And, I got taken advantage of, and it put a poor taste in my mouth. And, I'd move on, I'd go work for other brands, and I ended up getting a really great opportunity to work for another local business.
It was definitely something that I was putting a lot of time into behind the scenes. After work, I would go home and learn about it or practice something, one or another. It was just a world that I wanted to get into. And, I got taken advantage of, and it put a poor taste in my mouth. And, I'd move on, I'd go work for other brands, and I ended up getting a really great opportunity to work for another local business where I just made them shine through the lens of social, and I really didn't know anything about it, and the results were showing so well that it was making me look like an expert or that I've done this before. And I really took to it. I liked the idea of marketing. I didn't even know what the difference between content creation and marketing was at the time.
But it was very fascinating to me, and it was just stuff that I really knew was in my best interest if I learned more about it and I invested more time with it. So as the investment of my time and energy got deeper into the social marketing realm of content creation and everything, I really tried to have fun with it in the best way I could, but it's a real whirlwind. My story really isn't too different than other content creators,
where you don't know what you're doing, you're just posting short clips, kind of learning about it, and then you get good feedback from a really big business or professional that you wanted to work with or that you look up to or a thought leader. And then on the same day, I would get negative criticism by total strangers I didn't know, that I didn't care to know, that, you really have to, there's no manual to it.
And when I was younger, we didn't have any of this technology. We met up in person. We would ride bikes and scrape our knees, and I think those days are gone. Technology really reshaped what we know as the world today, and a lot of the things that get me excited as a content creator, a new feature, a new app, it's stuff that I think a lot of people take for granted, or there's just so much new emerging apps and technologies that I can't really keep up. I remember at a certain point in time I used one or two apps. Now I have notebooks full of apps that I have yet to download because I don't have the room for it, because I'm constantly cycling through the new app that I heard about that app. And
it's a complicated struggle that I think a lot of small business owners and content creators can gain a lot of value or insight for themselves if they are looking to immerse themselves in the digital world, or grow an online business, or even grow some brand awareness for a business that they already have. I struggled with it more and more the more I learned how to do it professionally. It was a very strange mental shift for me,
where I didn't know what I was doing and I was actually getting results, and then I'd learn how to do it in the professional way, and I'd kind of just get discouraged about all of it. There's so much to it. There's front end and back end and Google search engine optimization and title tags, meta descriptions, then there's the social content creative, then there's ads, then there's marketing, then there's content creation, there's podcasting. It gets overwhelmed. I got overwhelmed the more and more I learned how to do it professionally, and I always kind of wanted to go back into the area that made me happy.
But it's kind of a tricky thing when you're building and you're cultivating an audience and a community around things that you want to help them for. You're not really able to just break character, especially as a virtually unknown going into the internet. All I really am ever going to be is a product of the four corners that I produce for the people that watch or take things away from it. I have gotten other opportunities. I've gotten to go to events. I've gone to hundreds of events and expos around the Boston area over the last 5 years. I've gotten to meet celebrities. I've gotten to meet some really well-to-do professionals and thought leaders in their industry through the skill sets that I have learned to make an income that I desired that would make my life happier. And that was kind of always the idea of me leaving the 9 to 5. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it has led me here. I have a lot of frustrations about the content world. I've gotten in pretty deep into corners of the internet and in groups that I don't know how I ended up there, but there's been drama. I've gotten entanglement with people that are like
really, really visible, that have been doing this for years. And it's kind of a tricky thing because a giant part of me knew that business would be hard, and a large part of me, through the understanding of the internet and online and social and just from witnessing it, I never thought it would be easy. The lack of small business support, or just the lack of actual, I don't know if it's like people don't really have the same passion for seeing my small business grow as much as they will watch, listen, or take something from themselves. And I often make jokes of it for social content and everything about, value leeches and haters. But it is really brutal. It is really true. No one watching on the other side of the screen really has like a pure desire to see my business grow. And I've been doing this for so long, and I'm so numb to like the negativity and the toxic nature of the internet. And it's a sad, mean, empty place. And my perspective of it has changed a lot. My dream hasn't, and my goals haven't. But I've gone through quite a journey of business where in 2018, when I decided to incorporate my startup creative media agency, I had no idea how to set it up. I didn't have the funding. I didn't have capital. By the way, I am still self-funding everything myself. I always have. I've received no sponsorship. I received no donation. Nothing from the state or the government, no grants, nothing. And it was such a journey internally more than externally, as far as, it's such a cheat code. The internet and social media, they don't teach you it the way that it should be taught, I don't believe. But it's very greedy and it's very selfish, and the most selfish and greedy win. No one's coming to help. No one really cares. They could consume this entire video. People are more likely willing to pause it, clip it, tear it apart, badmouth and attack, or mention for clout or whatever it is, one-upping this, than they are to go, wow, this is something I want to get behind. This person sounds like someone I can relate to. I want to support. These are just things that don't happen. And it's strange because I do see a lot of different stories that come out of the internet and startups online. But it's a very sad, empty place. And what I mean by that is it's only ever as good as you make it. When you go into it alone, hopefully you have some sort of plan or dream, or maybe you don't have any of the above, but you have a strong desire to help people with the thing that you feel you can bring value to. No one cares. Even if you are the most intelligent person in your niche industry, there's a bajillion other factors. There's the reach, there's the communication platform that you chose. And the deeper you get into that metrical analysis of numbers, and it starts to get unenjoyable, and you start to realize why people have teams, why people have coaches. That's when I started to really imagine this being a career, and I started finding these people. I stopped almost everything immediately when I realized, nothing's coming through this phone. I'm spending hours and hours. I was someone who was I had a strong desire to learn, but I had no idea what I was really doing. And a lot of the content that I was putting out, for the first few years especially, really wasn't too valuable or worth a watch or read. And the more and more I learned, it took quite an investment to get there. In courses alone, in courses and classes in the last 5.5 years, I've spent over $15,000 in courses, believe it or not. Some of them had price tags for $8,000 a pop. So it wasn't cheap. The equipment, the rent, everything that this takes, the energy, even this podcast episode is the first of its kind for me to not only create and produce, and after this I'll have to edit it, but just the hookup alone in an empty office, hooking up 4 cameras, and this is a brutal industry where you are essentially on your own. And you have to make it work or it's never going to. And when I say it's a sad, empty place, it's not meant to be depressing or sad, but it's really to give a real practical idea about what it means to be a content creator. A lot of it is not glamorous, and a lot of it isn't fun. Emails, calls, conversions, funnels. This used to be fun for me. Now it's a part of life. It's a part of work. And my style of content, just self-educating myself and being so loose on the camera, I hear feedback all the time, but you can almost feel it. I don't need a script, and I could just run miles around people that are only using script or only using a certain feature or certain gimmicky. I can go outside and do this. I can go inside and do it. You can give me a script. You can not give me a script. I'm going to be okay with it. I can run circles around a lot of the people that used to put me down for trying to be a content creator. And being a content creator is really not an easy task. The idea of just posting seems simple. It's a lot more around it. To say that a marketer, all we do is post, that's like saying all a chef does is cook. There's a lot of finer details that the audience will never see. A giant part of this leans on the fact that we need audiences. We need people to engage with our content. And I found it personally a real internal struggle for me. It was, no one cared when I didn't know what I was doing or didn't have a business. And I ended up going on to make American history on national television for a patent project that I created called Boston's Digital Arena for a piece of metaversal software in the digital world. Back in 2019, I was invited by the Inventors Group of America to participate in an event, and it really did a lot for my career. I lost a lot of people, friends, internal doubts is always there. And I think just the fact that I'm a guy, and I'm a guy on social media, where, let's face it, in the world of evolution, we don't get nearly as much attention as our opposite ends of the sex spectrum. Sometimes guys get their first bouquet of flowers at their funeral. I'm someone who grew up without a mother or a father, and I was raised by my father's family, who I adore and love, that gave me all the tools and equipment I needed to succeed. But I didn't live a normal life in terms of sentiment or someone to go to for an emotional problem or something happening in my life where I needed someone to talk to. I had to figure it out on my own. And I think that's one of the only reasons that I made it into business for so long by myself in such an industry. Especially on social media, we're not only competing with our competitors, we're now competing with anyone drawing any attention ever. The amount of time that people spend on your content or absorbing something for themselves or whatever the case may be is most likely a fraction of the time that it took me to learn it, post it, and it's never going to please everyone. I've heard a lot of negative, toxic comments in my 5-year, 6-year tenure at Digital Business Traffic from sources on the internet that I wouldn't take advice from to tie my shoe, that were people that I did not want to be with. And I struggled with that because, when we think we only really exist from our own perspective, and a lot of this industry is who we are and how people are interpreting and perceiving our information. We're not backed by big, giant capital budgets. I'm not the news station. I don't have giant big sponsors where I'm afraid to open my mouth. And a lot of it was choosing and deciding who to reply to and how to go about it. And even from the very second I started, just the comment section, man, that stuff will kill you. Stress will kill you. They're not on your team. They're scrolling by. They have no idea. Most of the time, they have no idea who you are. They're meeting you or discovering you for the first time. But even the most loyal of viewers or followers don't email you supportive things. Like it's a very selfish world. And the sickest thing for me that makes this cathartic, and this whole episode is like a giant ball of energy being released for me in the most greedy, selfish way possible for my mental health, is because we build platforms to grow a voice about a topic or a subject that we're usually passionate about that can create monetary benefit or avenues that we wanted to begin with, in front of a bunch of people that we don't care about, in front of a bunch of people that don't care about us, globalized, that will, people that don't want to see you succeed. You're very visible. Things happen. I remember being told, "Oh, haha, you're not much of a businessman." Been in business for 6 years. I don't think businessman should, and I think a lot of it had to do with my look, and that's a whole other part of business. These are the boring, sticky, gross, icky parts of consumer psychology and social marketing that I bring a serious value to the table for business owners and corporations looking to grow. We have to do a lot of sticking out, being remembered. Again, no one really cares. They just criticize us from the second we hit the internet till we get off. There's good, there's bad. You're going to be loved, you're going to be hated. We didn't have to face this kind of thing when we were younger. If we had a problem with someone, you get offline and you handle it. Now everybody's a keyboard warrior. Not one single person in 6 years ever came up to me in person and discredited me or said something bad. But online, I've been stalked, I've been harassed, I've had to break out and get other 9-to-5 jobs to support it during lumps of time where it wasn't doing so hard, or I was trying to figure out like another monetary thing for whatever reason. And just even the people around me, the coworkers, they just underput me. And if you're not careful, the stuff that you really feed yourself will control the rest of your life or your fate. And I'm a strong, firm believer in the power of positivity. Nobody tells themselves that they deserve it more than I do. And, the SSMA world where I first started is a very soft particular place in the creator economy or the social internet economic world, it's the softest. You can't really express a sharp opinion. If it's too bold, people don't like that. It's very linguistic, where your words are only about your subject in a way to draw attention. Then I had an e-commerce coach, and I got into e-commerce, where it's just cutthroat, where their video content was really rough. In the SSMA world, you might see here's a quick tip about how to do this. And it's all nice, and you end the clip and you post it. And you just hope to attract and be nice and be kind, and hopefully people remember you. They just scroll. They don't care. And then in the e-com world, the video clips are more like, some people just don't like making money easier, but they don't matter anyway. Clip, watching it, you're like, woof, they're brutal. And you really learn it's either they're converting or they're not. So they're two very different worlds, two very distinct styles of content. And I just explored. I got more into myself. After so long, you realize nothing's coming, no one's coming to help. This is all empty space. What do I want out of it? And I got really greedy, because I realized, the more time that I invested into other people to build a genuine community, which was something that I starkly went after from the first day I started, I said, whatever I want out of this, I want a community of people that can benefit out of this. Business teaches you a lot. It has you thinking about things that haven't happened yet, and it's a really tough thing, because you're balancing a pool of people that may or may not even be interested, with swarms of people that want to put terrible things about you out online, or whatever it is. I've already gotten mentioned for clout. It's just all of the factors of what, the modern day successful person on the internet would consider as like, milestones or breaking points. I've faced it. It's not easy. And the most rewarding thing and the most cathartic thing about doing this episode is just, I don't care what any of these cameras are thinking right now. Because I know, after 5.5 years on the internet, that this entire podcast is wrong to someone. And then on the other side of it, it's really going to inspire another person. The attention factor is brutal. It's really brutal on the mind. You always have to be thinking, content, what am I putting out? And sometimes I feel like I put out more content than I lived my life, and it's still not enough. And then you learn, how do I do this better? How do I do this faster? How do I do this more? As of right now, I'm being searched regularly over 15 to 25,000 times, roughly on one or two major platforms. And I don't have what I would consider a giant social media presence. It's a very strange experience going into it, and I've gotten a lot of professional help. So now I am embarking on telling my story in a time order fashion, using podcasting and my YouTube story as my business builds around me. I've tried a variation of ways to do it. The mediums that I picked to do my communicating with weren't always the most beneficial for me or my audience. Sometimes looking back at my content, I can tell that I'm a little confused. Content's a tough thing. It's definitely a blood sport. I'm constantly inspired by a lot of bigger creators and people in my industry, which keeps me going, because I know that the things that I have faced, they have most likely faced themselves in one way or another.
But it is a giant change in the way that I essentially do my business and live my life. Everything now is on a time schedule, and it's really not even getting, it's just approaching the point where I'm bracing the walls of how long and difficult it's going to be.
I've hugged all the short form, smaller apps on the internet for years that now I'm in a very comfortable, confident position. Like, hey, I have to push for the big ones now. I have to go to YouTube. I have to go to LinkedIn. I have to do this every single day. 20-minute videos are not enough. I need more. I need them to convert. I need them to do this. And with every action that I do now comes with a laundry list of wants and needs, because now I'm thinking about an organization behind me and how to get it up and going in a prosperous state. Then it puts you in a whole other frame of mind when I just launched a startup marketing campaign. Not really happy with the results. I did it just to put some fun back into it for me. A lot of this is selfish because this is the way that I teach other entrepreneurs to go about it. The other end of the camera is something that you should, especially for your brand and your business, it should really only be for them.
So for personal branding for me is really revenge of the creator is what I call it. Episode 3 of Tech Wars, it's what I call it. I'm going to stick by it. That's my story. It's revenge of the creator. It's okay, my presence bothers people. This post will make people feel a certain way, or this might irritate certain people, or people that have hated in the past. And it's a very shady industry. They do things in the back, messages. You really have to be careful, especially into the digital world. Everything is digital. Everything can and will be held against you. People aren't always on your team. And really, you have to go into it knowing the odds that most businesses fail, most brands fail, most people don't have what it takes, most people are sheep, most people are listening and absorbing so much content from just people that have no idea what they're talking about on the internet. Just absorbing it. And I've gone into guilty spells with that as well, especially trying to monetize in such a genuine way with the community. It actually cost me more money than I got from it. I put out features. I had a giant website with forums, and I was offering it all for free. I had one of my social accounts from my brand got hacked. The forums got flooded with spam. No one used it. And then the criticism comes, hey, this isn't so valuable. And there's some real nutballs on the internet. And it really started to bring me into the video podcasting world where I'm not searching and exploring for a corner anymore. I'm finding a corner that I don't plan to leave and make as much noise with as humanly possible, and probably only talk to the people that support from here on out. A lot of fakeness to it where, it's such a cheat code is what I like to refer to it as, because when you go on social media, or when you go into the media, or when you start becoming more visible for your professional life or your business, and you start acquiring success, you're just more open to it, it's all going to happen. Everything that you wanted is going to happen. And the cheat code of it is that people can't control your media. People can't control your social. So the more you learn to speak up for yourself, it becomes dangerous. It becomes deadly. When you look back at even an artist who's very criticized for doing it is like Taylor Swift. Almost every one of her relationships gone wrong is a song now. But that's kind of the power of using your voice, and I use it well. I have things that I need to do that the viewer on the other end of it doesn't care to support or help with, and it's turning me into this somewhat selfish monster where I just want to produce as many of these videos as humanly possible to make ad revenue back for the amount of money that I lost trying to help other entrepreneurs. And I can't say that that'll go away. I am stubborn. I am human. Like, so the next time I think of doing something nice for my community, I want money up front because I am not going to be disrespected by anybody I don't know. I'm not going to allow it. You know, they can write what they want in the comment box, but, you know, the reality is brutal. I made history and broke records, and they're just sitting there watching me. I didn't know they existed. You know, this is someone that used to go into every single comment and give them value back, or go out of my way to make sure that they enjoyed their, you know, all these things that I used to do. I wouldn't even budge for them now. Now it's cerebral. It's like, get them to fight over me, fight over my attention. There's not enough room, so, you know, 4 of you have to go. If they don't support, block them. Like, these are all somewhat, it's a way that I make a sense of humor about it to stay sane.
But it feels like I am floating in a box through the internet of space, and I'm either going to get what I want or not. And none of the criticism really matters, and that seems to bother people. You know, I'm not a professional athlete or a musicianal artist where I'm putting out albums and all these opportunities, or, you know, I have to create every opportunity that I get and be grateful for it. Not to people on the other side of the screen. It's getting hard to separate and navigate. So I'm going to do my best to start adding real, tangible, and practical solutions to grow an actual community around it. Hopefully, so that I can live the life that I wanted to live and not have to worry about it. Creating content is always going to be a struggle because it always has to be consistent. You're playing into people's livelihoods. It's a trippy thing. It's a very trippy thing. So my personal podcast show is just a way that I can explore what I want and use my voice doing it. And again, it's very greedy because I don't care how people feel. Almost everything else that I do online is open and suggestible to criticism. I just refuse to ever change who I am for a bag or for someone else's approval. And I'm at a point in my career where very little impresses me. View counts don't impress me. It's just time in. You know, it's a craft. I'm not unfamiliar with it. I do work with lots of other brands and small businesses. But it is a battle. It's a fight. No one wants to see you win. They don't even have the optical measures at times to know how much you could really use it. And I think that even exploring that or putting myself out there in such a vulnerable way, like, hey, my small business could use support. I put a support tab. I've been advertising that support page for 3.5 weeks. 2 people clicked. No one supported. So, of course, that ultimately modifies the value or what I feel they deserve as a whole. If it was paid, if it was a paid video, I'd put it on my website, and anyone who wanted that value could go pay for it.
But when it comes to the social content now, I'm incredibly greedy. I'm incredibly selfish. I won't eat at restaurants that don't follow my account. If they own something and they, you know, unfollow me, I will go to great lengths to ensure that I never help that business thrive in any way. The reason I think that, and the reason it's become so extreme over the years, is because so has the competition, and so is the lack of small business support. It's all attention based, and there's really no punishment for doing something wrong. Although you could potentially end your career doing something goofy, I compare everything now to an OnlyFans model who does really adult things on the internet. Everything that I do now is compared to that. So whatever criticism, you know, you said that and that was a little harsh, it goes in one of my ears and out the other. I've heard a lot of criticisms. So many criticisms. And I have to say, none of them are in business. None of them mattered to me. I'll look right in the camera and I'll say, you are all totally irrelevant to me. I push a button. I don't think about any of you. I tune all of you out unless you show support. I know my supporters very well because I also ensure that, they're showing me support while I'm still smaller, while I'm still on the come up. Here's some support back. It's all reciprocative, but it's a very tough industry. And I'm really just putting my head out there now. Even in terms of, like, if you ask your honest self how many epic videos you've watched or unbelievable music videos you've consumed or even something valuable that you've downloaded for yourself, when do you go out of your way to email them or say, hey, thanks, or share that video? It's just not likely. It's a lot of leeching. It's a lot of pretending. And the thing that I'm so proud of myself with is just, especially from my story, and I kept it so real and genuine throughout my video and my content, is it's powerful being the same person that you say you are. No one can take it away. They don't have to like you. They're going to try, especially as a guy, all they're going to do is try to take it away from you. They want it for themselves as much as they don't. If I showed every highlight in the last 5.5 years of my life, people would be incredibly envious. Not so much about the lifestyle changing, but the opportunities that each of these simple little posts, these seemingly little intricate things that I do online, it's so easy to scroll by, but it impacts my life greatly. Emails and social, it's all to generate resources. When you go into business, if you go into it with the mindset of, how do I please everybody? How do I make a video that people are going to like? Wrong attitude. It's just not the right attitude to have. If I went on stage and I said something that bothered someone in the audience, they would get ejected now, not me. If the people running the event didn't like something I did, I would just stop going to the event. I am in a place of my mind that I am unbreakable. You're not going to shake me. You can send all the weird type of harassment that I've received over the last 5 years. It doesn't change who I am.
It doesn't. And, if we really want to go into the statistics, 8% of the entire world are entrepreneurs. 0.0000007% or 8% of the entire world are independent inventors that ever made history. That's 7 zeros. So the odds are that anyone watching or listening to this probably don't have another entrepreneur in their social following or email list that has quite the exact same story that I have. Success is something that kills people on the inside that don't have it, and for the rest of us, it's just, how do we make this work to live our lives? Everything sounds like bragging on the internet to people that aren't doing anything, and at this point, it's really like I want to surround myself with savage warriors who know exactly what they want, that aren't afraid of criticism. I've had entire pages created bashing me. At this point, it doesn't faze me. When I go to the bank, or I deal with a sponsor, or I'm helping out another brand, these are things that don't come to mind. It's time in, it's money, it moves quickly, it's who wants to make money with me, or how can I help you make more money. Other than that, I really don't have too much time for conversations of anything in between. And again, this is someone who used to just sit there and make short videos thinking like, oh, this is great, I'm making a lot of people happier. Doesn't make a difference. And the sickest thing now is this is just the way of the future. So I know a lot of people that are going to go into this industry that don't have 5 years of experience or this insight. It's just a crazy world that we live in, with everything online. And really, all you have to do is learn how to impulse people's decisions on the other end of the camera.
To get them to like you, not to make them do anything really. And I think that's where I come in as a content creator with different creative outlines and aspects that clearly demonstrate with results behind it, it increases sales. It's like people don't want robotic, and they don't mind watching you do something bold. Or just, you have to really do everything that you're doing with intention, and stop trying to be perfect. Like if you can envision yourself 10 miles down the road at all times, at where you're going, at where you know it's going to go, the angles and the optics and the opinions from that, what we do is in moving time. It's in real time. And I think that's just the struggle of content creation, is a lot of people want to be known or be very visible for something, sometimes with the wrong intentions, or they don't know how to go about it. There's really no right way or wrong way. I could drop dead tomorrow, no one's going to notice. 10 years from now, I might have millions of followers. Same story is going to happen. And then in a few days, no one's going to notice. And I think that is a brutal attitude that might be required to be successful in the content world in 2023. Again, you're not competing with just your competitors. You are competing with anyone gaining any attention. And that's pretty much anyone on social media.
The whole landscape is changing, which is new to everybody, but there's never really, I can't envision a time where we start to go back. When Facebook first came out, it was a place we would just show or share very short tidbits about our day or what we wanted. And
now I feel like I can do an hour segment about one topic or the other, and it's still not enough. And people aren't on the other end of the laptop worried or thinking about you at all. It's very selfish. And that's why I say to be selfish back. Flip it all on its head. So, a large part about my brand and the social content to come from my brand, on the branding side or for the business side, it's for other people. It's for other people. I'm a connector of the dots between the information and the medium. I almost don't exist. So it's a really tough thing. And the best advice that I can give to aspiring creatives or just entrepreneurs that really want to put yourself out there is know that it is competitive. And if you choose to be competitive, just play into it. Like, be competitive. Don't say, I don't really like to be competitive and, hoping this is going to make people like you or something. People don't care. The sickest part is that I did it so genuine, and I think there's like a knot on my neck from it that'll last until I at least make my money back from the people that have just leached and not shown support. But it does put a knot in my neck. It absolutely does. And only because I actually lost out financially on trying to equip people that were in my community with options that I thought would greatly benefit them. You deal with a lot of laziness, and who knows I have no idea what people are doing or thinking.
It's none of my business. I wish more people minded their own, but I can't be a content creator and ask for people to not criticize. So I just started to roll into it, and now it's just like I have a strong desire to be as polarizing and as human as possible, especially with things like artificial intelligence and ChatGPT coming out and deep voice, all the information, all the media that we put in to our systems are viewed by the world. We have no concept or control over who views it or who watches it or how they think. And that's just kind of where I'm at as a content creator, and I call this the Revenge of the Creator. This is episode 3 in my self-titled docu-series that I like to call Tech Wars. It's the history of my brand. It's how I came up. It's the type of person I am. It's how I work. And it's how I think, really. There's always a bigger fish out there, and I don't care what the tiny little goldfish have to say in my comment section. So this podcast is incredibly empowering for me to use my voice in a echo chamber, in a place that we work so hard to gain visibility for, build a platform for, and you just realize, like, wow, no one cares. Or you go back into it, why you have conversations with yourself, like, is what I'm doing right? And you always just have to remember that you're doing it for you, and stay true to yourself. But this has been the first episode of the Mark DellaPenna Show, and I would like to thank everyone who watched or scrolled by or viewed even for a second, because there really wasn't much here except me ranting, and it has been cathartic. I have my full uniform on, my custom clothing, make history, break records, because I know my haters love to talk, but they can't emulate the success. Hard work. I will see you on the internet, my friends. Adios.